everyone, my name's Ali and welcome back to my channel, Mindful Living. In today's video, I'm taking you guys outside on my 84 square foot balcony garden, and I'm going to give a full update on how all my plants have been growing throughout the month of July. There's been lots of changes in my garden in the past month, so let's go ahead and get started with the tour. I'm starting off my tour today by showing you my tomato plants. I have 3 different types of tomatoes. I'm growing Rutgers, Roma, and Regina. If you watched my last garden tour, you would have seen I started 2 of these from transplant and 1 of them from seed, and they're growing really well. The plants have gotten very bushy and tall, and I do have a bit of fruit already set on my tomatoes. Here is a few of the Rutgers tomatoes. And there's lots more blossoms and buds forming near the top of the plants as well. I have a few more tomatoes up here, and next to it there is my Roma tomato. This one doesn't have as many tomatoes as the Rutgers, but I still do have quite a few still developing. This is the first year in my garden I've experienced blossom end rot on my tomatoes. Leave me a comment down below if this has happened to you before as well. It's usually from inconsistent watering, and I've tried to be pretty consistent with my watering like every other year, but I have taken off a few tomatoes that have rotted at the bottom as I want my plant to focus on growing and ripening the healthy looking tomatoes. All of these tomatoes are determinate variety, meaning they're only going to grow to 3 feet or so tall, and then they set all of their fruit at once. I'm hopeful that the other flowers and blossoms will turn into some healthy looking tomatoes, and I am going to keep a better eye on watering them throughout the month of August. Moving on to eggplant, this is a Black Beauty variety of eggplant, and I did transition this into the garden a little bit later than all my other plants as it is a heat lover, so I was waiting for those summer temperatures to set in, but so far it's gotten really large and I'm starting to see some buds and blossoms develop on it. Next is my peas, and I did grow 2 different peas in the springtime, a snowflake and a sugar pea. This footage is from a few weeks ago, and my snow peas are already pulled out of my garden by now, and I've already transitioned some green beans in their place, and that is because peas do not like hot temperatures. They are a cool season crop that likes to grow in the spring months, so by the time the heat sets in, I do a final harvest off my plant, and then I will pull them out and plant something new. I did get multiple harvests and lots of snow peas off my plants, and I was really happy with how they grew this spring. Next up is cauliflower, and this is an amazing variety of cauliflower. I did do a whole video of this on my channel. If you missed it, it was my last video that I did, sharing how this grew along with a few tips on how to grow cauliflower in containers. If you missed that video, make sure to go back and check it out if you're interested in growing cauliflower. But yeah, this did really well in my spring garden. I had no issues growing this. I harvested and enjoyed my head of cauliflower a couple weeks ago already, and I already have something new growing in its place. Moving on to peppers, I grow lots of peppers in my garden because they absolutely love the hot days of summer and they can stand the heat, along with having an abundance of fresh peppers to enjoy and harvest throughout the season. The varieties I'm growing are hot and sweet banana pepper, orange juice sweet, red baron, habanero, and cayenne. First up, I'm showing my hot banana pepper, and this is growing fantastic. I have tons of peppers. I've counted about 10 on this one plant so far. On top of that, there's still lots of buds and blossoms that are still developing, so I'm really curious how many I'm going to get off this one plant. This is my sweet banana pepper, and this one has a little bit less peppers, but I still have about 6 growing on the plant, and there's lots of leafy growth happening at the top and new buds forming, so I'm sure I'll get a few more peppers off that. Here is the orange juice sweet variety. This is a Hungarian pepper, which is a little bit smaller, and you can see them there. I have quite a few popping up. Next, I have my red baron. This is just a typical red bell pepper, and I do have quite a few on this plant too. I have about 6 peppers growing, and they're continuing to get larger. Next is the habanero, and this plant has really grown out quite tall and wide. Here is my cayenne pepper, which is in my hanging basket, and I have tons of hot peppers on here. I'm really excited to make some hot sauce with this, and wait for them to all turn a bright red color. I'm starting to see a couple outside right now turning red, so I'll show you guys that in my next garden update. Here I'm showing my Ruby Ann strawberries. This is a different variety for me this year and I'm really enjoying it. I love its little pink flowers. It's attracting a lot of pollinators and bees into my garden this year as well, which is really beneficial and helpful to make sure that all your flowers get pollinated properly. I've also gotten multiple harvests off this plant so far, so I'm always picking a few strawberries here and there and enjoying them in my garden. I have 3 growing in this one hanging container and it's been really prolific and producing lots of fresh berries. Next up is green beans, and this is a bush variety of beans and it's called a golden yellow wax bean. Green beans, all varieties, are one of those great summer crops as they can withstand high temperatures and heat, and they're still going to grow and produce pretty well. You want to harvest your green beans when the pods are young and tender, so they should be somewhat firm and resemble the thickness of a pencil and be about 4 to 5 inches long, so make sure you harvest them right away so they don't become stringy or tough and they won't taste as good then. Moving on to cucumbers, I'm growing 2 bush cucumbers in my container garden this year. One is a pickle bush and one is a bush champion variety. Even though they are bush cucumbers, I do still use a trellis to support them as it grows. This is especially important when your cucumbers start to grow. They can be quite heavy, especially the bush champion variety. I already do have a few cucumbers popping up on my one plant here. One thing you want to keep an eye out for with your cucumber plants is powdery mildew. This disease easily and quickly takes over cucumber plants and other plants as well. Every year I've had it on my cucumber plant, even when I've sprayed or removed leaves. So I do keep a couple seedlings growing indoors in case I need to transition those into the garden and start again. Typically, I'll still get multiple cucumbers off my plants before this happens. Moving on to leafy greens. This area of my balcony is partially shaded, so it gets some morning sunlight and afternoon shade. By this point in midsummer, I've already harvested and enjoyed all my leafy greens because they will not stand up to the intense heat that I get in my area. So I always make sure to do a harvest before any heat wave starts to set in and I lose any of my plants. I was growing a few different types of lettuce throughout the spring, including Little Gem, Butter Crunch lettuce, arugula, prize head lettuce, and iceberg lettuce. At this point, I just have my iceberg lettuce, which I'll be harvesting any day now, which I'm showing right here. This is my iceberg lettuce, and it can take a little bit longer to develop because it does develop into a head in the middle. I have been plucking some of the outer leaves off and using those in burgers or sandwiches, but yeah, I'm really excited to harvest the entire head. I also ended up planting some Swiss chard last moment. This is the Bright Lights variety of Swiss chard, and I have 2 growing in this one container, but obviously one is taken over and is growing a lot larger. Here is my kale plant. It's a dwarf green curly variety of kale, and I've already been harvesting and enjoying this all spring and into the summer. Kale is a little more heat tolerant, so I leave it in a shaded location for the afternoon, and so far it's been growing really well, and it still tastes great. I also decided to plant some radishes in my container garden. This is my first time growing radishes, and these are a cherry bell variety. I'll be sure to give a full update with how those continue to grow throughout the summer. Here are my beets. This is a Better Rave Perfect 3 beets, and I did have 8 beets in this container, but I'm down to 4 because the squirrels came along and destroyed a few of my seedlings. And last I'll be showing here is my herbs. Here I'm growing rosemary, thyme, oregano, sage, and parsley. All of these herbs are from the Mediterranean region, aside from parsley, so they can withstand some drought and high temperatures. They're also companion plants, which is why I planted them all together. Here I have some chives. You can see just how bushy and big my chives are getting. I love cooking with these and I harvest off of it constantly. And lastly is my basil. I've been harvesting off this as well. Every year I look forward to making my homemade pesto with this. Well, that's it for this video today. I hope if you guys enjoyed seeing my garden tour and how my plants have been growing throughout the month of July, that you'll leave me a like, make sure to leave me a comment down below and let me know how your garden is going as well, and hit that subscribe button. It really does help to support me in the growth of my channel. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you in my next one.